from the AirTech Heating Studios, a Born to Win media production. Welcome to the resurrection of Say It Like You See It.
Vacation is officially over, and we are back and better than ever. It's Say It Like You See It. I am one of your hosts, Trace the Moose Moustakis, live from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, the heart of Packers country, joined by my partner in crime, as always, the Quinn Mighty Q Redmond himself. Let's bring him in. Quinn, it's been a while. We've had some vacation days. We've had a little time off, and now we are 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. How you feeling?
Well, it's Taco Tuesday. So, we feeling great. And you talk about vacation days like we both go on vacation. You've had vacation days.
That's true.
You spent time at the beach.
It's true.
I've spent time dealing with the good old April blizzard that came through Fargo and just now getting out of it. But essentially we're going to hit 60 degrees today. So most of the snow is almost gone.
That's funny.
We almost see grass. So
almost. You see, that's funny. Yesterday here in Fondy, it was 72. Today is 75. Tomorrow is 80. And then Thursday and Friday, we'll see like 75, 71. And then this weekend it drops way back down to like 46. So we're going to get a stark little swing here. But I'm going to be playing golf tomorrow, enjoying myself a little bit of outdoor time. The weather is beautiful. But today, we've got some stuff to talk about. A lot has happened in the NFL world. Most notably and most recently, Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Baltimore Ravens, $18 million deal for 1 year, $15 million of that $18 million fully guaranteed. And there's been some other stories. I want to start with this. Will Levis has been receiving a boatload of criticism for this sort of arrogance that he's been displaying during his interviews. His Instagram has been under fire for the full body mirror pics that he's been taking. He's a jack dude. There's no doubt about that. Dude's like 6'4", 6'5", 225, 230 pounds, pure muscle, sitting at probably 8 to 9% body fat. He's an absolute machine. However, that's entirely what his Instagram is all about, is his body, his gym grind. I'm going to ask you this. Do you think this hurts Will Levis's chances of going as a top 3 quarterback? Does he fall into the first round? Will he still be taken in the top 10, maybe top 5? Where do you think he goes?
Yes, this is a huge knock for him. Nobody wants a bodybuilding quarterback. Being a bodybuilder as a quarterback is not what you want. You don't want a power lifter as a quarterback. You don't want a bodybuilder. And it's something that I think too many people get too obsessed with the gym side of the NFL. Like DK Metcalf is a machine of a wide receiver. He can do that because that's his specialty. That's what makes him different. For Will Levis, being a bodybuilder as a quarterback is help to no one. Like, it doesn't make you throw the football any better. It doesn't make you have any better vision. It doesn't make your decision making any better. So for him, and the fact that he couldn't win a starting job at Penn State, the fact that he actually had not great numbers at Kentucky, which is actually a quarterback favorable system that they kind of have, and he honestly didn't really play that well, had to play against a little bit of a kind of run of the mill, like lower end of like crappy defenses in the SEC. Like those bottom teams are really, really bad. And he didn't exactly play fantastic. And then the top teams, it's like, yes, he played well, but at the end of the day, he still isn't really that great of a quarterback. I don't know why they've talked about him as being this, hey, he's not a transformation guy. He's not super accurate with the football. He's not super athletic. He's not really that special at anything. And I think what is starting to happen is too many people get so amped up and like they look at the quarterback and they're like, oh, that's all that matters. That's the first thing. That's what everyone needs to do. But you start missing what the NFL draft is. We saw Malik Willis have a fantastic combine last year. And then people started talking about him and like people started doing But at the end of the day, the combines, the pro days, and even the other nonsense drills like drills and throwing on air that some of these guys do in this time span leading up to the draft has nothing to do with what the fact that we saw on film. What you see on film is the player that you're going to get. Everyone looks incredible at a pro day. There shouldn't be a single ball ever dropped at a pro day. There are scripted throws. You're going to throw the ball X amount of times. You're going to go this route, this route, this route, this route. You've had this chemistry worked out with these receivers for weeks and months, and everything is on a schedule. You know exactly what's going on. There's no defense, there's no reaction, there's no whatever else. It is literally a motion thing. So for some, the pro day actually only makes things worse because if you miss a throw or you miss a couple throws or you have some awkward looking, kind of midway through throwing motion and like you start to make these kind of weird things, that doesn't change anything from film. And the only thing you're going to do in a pro day is knock yourself, which I think, yes, all these guys still need to throw because it's more case showing the good side of what they are. But at the end of the day, like, I think people need to stop exaggerating over the pro days and the combine and all of these fancy numbers and drills and things that people do. And it's like, can we just stop and like look at the tape and evaluate the player for who they are and stop moving people up the draft board because they had a fancy combine or they had a good pro day? Like, I'm sorry, none of those players, like Will Levis, and I would even say Hendon Hooker, Anthony Richardson, and another very large grouping of guys. I mean, I would even to a degree say CJ Stroud, but CJ Stroud is going to be fine in the NFL. There's kind of relative the same way that Bryce Young is. Both of them can be draftable. Like they're fine. Like they're going to play in the NFL. The rest of them, I'm sorry. Will Levis is a third round talent. Anthony Richardson, third round talent. Hendon Hooker, third round talent. If I wasn't desperate, I'd probably, be a late to mid rounder on CJ Stroud. And even relatively the same for Bryce. Like
Yeah.
if you start looking at the true positions and where, hey, the longevity, you could draft a defensive end in this draft. There's 6 of them that are going to play in the league for the next 10 years. So you start to really evaluate and go, do I want a quarterback that is 50-50 of he's either going to be a starter and work for his rookie contract while we spend every dime we have to try to make us as good as possible to give him all the help to make us good right now? Or do we draft a guy that we know is going to be an NFL player for the next 10 years who could have a potential return and has trade capital and has a guaranteed value? And that's my issue now with what has happened in the last handful of weeks as the pro days have happened and there's been more chatter and guys are moving up and down on the board and it's like the film hasn't changed. We know what these guys are. Let's remember that. Look at the combine to kind of fill in a couple elements and go from there.
Yeah, so I like a lot of what you just said, and I'm going to expand upon a couple of things. So my biggest comparison that Will Levis had to me was Jay Cutler. And have you ever heard of the expression twin flames? It's an astrology term. It's
Yep.
two opposite signs that mirror each other perfectly. They're the exact same person, just on opposite ends of the spectrum. Jay Cutler was incredibly arrogant because he had a massive arm and he just claimed to be smarter and think differently than everyone else when he was coming out of college. Will Levis is the same way, that same arrogance, but he's about his arm and his body. He's a physical specimen. He understands the game of football. He is just this like NFL prototype is what he believes himself to be. And you were right. He couldn't win a job at Penn State. And at Kentucky, his junior year numbers were significantly better than his senior year numbers. So if you're asking me, the guy with the biggest upside to me probably is Will Levis, strictly upon his body and his arm. But what really it comes down to, and I'm going to kind of expand upon your pro day take. As you said, we all know that what these guys bring to the table. All of these guys need one thing. If you look at all of the great quarterbacks, Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, to a degree, Justin Herbert. All of those guys have one thing in common. They have a coach that understands their strengths. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be this all talent quarterback. But if you have a coach that understands what you do well and taps into that, you're going to have success. There's a lot of guys that have had great talent that have just fizzled out in the NFL. And there's been a lot of guys that have no talent that have risen, Kirk Cousins to a degree is one of those guys. Doesn't have a ton of talent, is just this, to me is just kind of the marginal stereotypical NFL quarterback. He doesn't have a great arm. He's not mobile. He's not overly intelligent, but he's got coaches that understand, hey, Kirk can do this really well. He can distribute the football really well. So we're going to do that. We're not going to give him anything too crazy. He's going to dump off to the tight end a lot. He's going to look, there's going to be a lot of play action. It's just going to be nice, simple, easy routes for him to understand, easy, complex offenses. And that's why 6-7 weeks out of the year, you see Kirk Cousins' QBR is like first, second, or third best in the NFL because coaches understand what he does well. There's a lot of guys that believe that they can just get like Kyler Murray, for an example. He thinks he can just get by on his talent alone. If he doesn't get a coach that understands this is how I'm going to put Kyler, I'm going to put in Kyler in situations to do better, or Lamar to do situations to do better, or Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts in situations to do better, you're going to see these guys hit a plateau and then steadily decline. So one of the things that these guys need to be aware of as they're coming out of the draft is I want to go to a coach that understands what I'm about as a quarterback and tailors their offense to what I do well. And then from there, learn the position. That's what Levis needs to do. That's what Richardson needs to do. And to a degree, I think you're right. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, they're just ready, right? They're ready to play. And they're not necessarily going to be these all-star players. They're not going to make Pro Bowls. At least I don't think, in my opinion. But they're going to be guys that, okay, they can play in the NFL. They can be a franchise quarterback. For how long, that remains to be seen. But when I look at Will Levis, I look at Jay Cutler. I see his twin flame. And I say, there's going to be games when Will Levis plays where you're going to be like, holy crap. Like, where did this guy come from? And then there's going to be 3 or 4 games in a row where you're like, dude, you need to go back to the drawing board because what on earth are you doing? And I think the arrogance is something he needs to keep in check. I think he needs to be telling these teams, I want to go to the best possible situation and the best possible coach that understands how I play the game of football and that I can give the best product to.
I definitely see the Jay Cutler in terms of, but I think his only issue is they both have the arrogance, and I think that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, as we've already seen that he can kind of rub people the wrong way. And it's like he's rubbing people the wrong way in areas where it's not like he's getting caught on hot mics or things like
Right.
these are things where it's like, hey, you're supposed to be on your behavior for X amount of days, and he's not even doing that. So it questions a little bit of a maturity factor. It questions some other decision making. And anytime that leads to, hey, you're basically the CEO of my business. That's what you are as a quarterback. And do I want this type of individual as the CEO of my business? And it's like, no. When it comes to quarterbacks, someone who is respectful, responsible, has discipline, has integrity, and is dedicated, that's what makes the best quarterbacks. Like at the end of the day, if you make it to the level of you're going to be drafted, you have to have some type of talent with your arm. You have to have some type of accuracy. You have to have some type of athleticism. You are good enough at playing football. And now it comes to the thing, and this is my problem with, is I'm going to take a pivot and talk kind of about the whole Odell thing and where Lamar's at, because Lamar is in that situation right now. You're in negotiations as already an offbeat guy. You aren't using an agent. You are doing your other weird at-home gym thing with a guy that wasn't representing you, but now you're doing things with him. And like, it's a lot of really, really bad optics. And he's going against the machine that is the NFL. they know what their branding is. They have teams and teams of marketing people and messaging and doing all these things to make sure that they come off on the right way. And am I trying to sit here and say that that's good? No, but he needs to understand what he's going up against. And right now, he's just making dumb mistakes
Yep.
that make it even easier for them to just be like, yep, nope, this is not something we want to do. And so I think this move by the Ravens to bring in Odell, and I think the fact that they gave him $15 million is absurd. I think they clearly were probably negotiating with themselves and were just in a weird place and probably dealing with some other things that's kind of going on. But either way, that's beside the point. It's more on the degree that they're trying to make Lamar happy. They are giving him the same thing that the Bears are doing with Justin Fields, because it's like, I guarantee you the Ravens situation with the fact that he's on the unrestricted tag and now we're seeing his market. And I think that market's going to change in 2 weeks once the draft happens. And as soon as the draft happens, everything gets thrown onto the table. And now it's kind of like, all right, you're going to start to see hands flying, people dealing, people moving and things, because that's the second free agency window, basically. And this for him, it's going to be interesting because he's got to clean. And the silence is to some degree better, but there's this, hey, we have no errors. We got you a top receiver. We've already got a great line. We've got a good defense. You have a great tight end, and we have a good enough running game. If we do not win playoff games, and you have a 1-3 record in the playoffs right now, this is your last chance, because essentially the last 2 years they've been in contract negotiations, but Lamar hasn't even played any substantial time because he missed last year in the playoff game. And then the year before that didn't play in the playoff game.
Yeah, he's missed 33% of the last 33 games played. He's missed 11 out of 33.
So it's hard to have contract negotiations because a lot of what the quarterback extra money, hey, this is guaranteed, hey, this is worked in, involves playoff numbers. Patrick Mahomes got a 10-year deal and 135 of it was guaranteed. Any person that is better than Patrick Mahomes, then you can get guaranteed money higher than 135 million. And like, that's kind of where like I kind of draw the line on the whole quarterback thing. It's like, yeah. I don't give a shit about the Deshaun Watson contract. Are you better than Patrick Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes was guaranteed $135 million over 10 years. And you're now asking for 200 million, and you're not better than Patrick Mahomes. You haven't won 2 Super Bowls. You haven't been to 3.
Nope.
You have won 1 playoff game and you've lost 3. And your passer rating across those 4 games are the worst for anybody who's played 4 playoff games in the same amount of time. So don't give me this, I want a bunch of money, when you don't have the numbers to back it up. And so it's this bad optics. And right now, I guarantee you the Ravens come to him and go, look, you can sign the tag. You can play for 1 year on the tag. If we make it to the playoffs and we do a lot of things, I bet you they can set up a bunch of contingencies of, hey, we make it to the playoffs, we make it to the AFC Championship game, it's going to be this type of the Super Bowl, you win the Super Bowl. Let's also remember they did this 10 years ago with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco literally was on his last year of his contract, goes and wins the Super Bowl, and then the Ravens gave him a brand new contract. So this whole, oh my gosh, the Ravens don't want to pay for a guy. They will if you produce. Correct. You need to go and win playoff games. You've won 1. You are 1-3 with the worst passer rating. So the Ravens honestly just shored themselves up and said, okay, Lamar, there's nothing else here. You have your receiver. You have your tight end. We've got a good O-line. We've got a good defense. It's either now or never. This is your time. Take us to the playoffs, win in the playoffs. That's what we care about. We are a winning franchise. We have 2 Super Bowl rings in the era of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And we did that with Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco. Yep. And now we're sitting here with an all-world talent. You're an MVP. You're a phenomenal quarterback. You're a great quarterback. We drafted you. All these other teams passed on you. We took you. We accepted you. We brought you in. You win 75% of the games for us. But take us to the promised land. Win in the playoffs, which is what we care about. We love that you put asses in the seats. We love that you bring so much attention. We love your electric play, but we want to see that electric play in January and February. We want to be hosting a parade at the end of the year. We
Yep.
want to be holding a trophy, and that's what we want from you. We were going to hold you to that standard, and that's what you need to do. And now you have no excuses left. So come in, play on the tag for a year, get yourself a contract. I get you played for cheap money. You've made what, $20 million your time in the league? Well, how about we could have passed on you in the draft and we could have let all the other teams bid for you? How about we didn't sign you to a tag? How about we just let you hit the market? We cut you. We don't want you. We're going to wheel and deal you. Come in, win a bunch of playoff games, and we're going to give you a giant contract. But we're a winning organization. Come win when it actually matters. We're not the Cleveland Browns. We don't care about playoff appearances. We care about Super Bowl appearances.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. So if you would have asked me a week ago who Lamar Jackson was going to play for next year, it would have been a question mark. Honestly, I would have leaned more towards he's going to sit out for a year. That's what I really thought was going to happen. I thought a week ago, I was like, Lamar is not going to play this year. He's going to explore his options, going to take a year off. Someone's going to sign him next year, and then he'll get right back to it. Kind of like Deshaun Watson, although without the legal troubles. Now Lamar, I believe, is 99.9% going to play for the Ravens this year under the tag. However, this is Lamar's 2-week notice. This is him going to his bosses. This is the equivalent of anybody going to their boss and saying, okay, I just want to let you know, I'm going to be done after this. Here's my 2-week notice. I don't care how we do this year. I don't care if we make a deep playoff run. I don't care if we make it to the Super Bowl. Anything short of winning a Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson, this will be his last year as a Raven. I can practically guarantee it. You can grab Odell and I think that's the reason why Odell signed a 1-year deal, or they signed Odell to a 1-year deal. They know Lamar's done. They just want to say, hey, look, we got you the piece. We got you a player. We got you another guy. Here you go. Here's the guy you've been asking for. And Lamar's going to look at it and go, you know what? I see what you're doing. You guys are placate. It's almost like a placate. It is. That's exactly what the Ravens are doing. They're basically saying, well, we're not going to pay you, but we're going to give you everything else, right? It's like going for a raise. Well, this literally is the same thing. It's like going for a raise at any other job. And they say, well, we're not going to give you the money, but how about 3 more days of vacation? How about a really nice dental package? Would you like that? Would you like a nice dental package? You know what? Take the rest of the day off. Go home, enjoy the rest of the day. Go out and golf, do whatever you want. All of the things except the thing you're asking for, which is give me more money. And it's just placating. That's all you're doing. You're just appeasing. You're pushing aside. You're sweeping it under the rug. This will be Lamar Jackson's last year in Baltimore. However, one thing that I'm starting to notice about Lamar Jackson, the contract thing should not be a surprise that he's being so stubborn. Lamar has been a contrarian since he entered the league. Lamar, so, you say A, Lamar says B. Why? Because at every turn, they've always doubted him. It was Lamar needs to be a wide receiver because he's not going to be built, he's not built physically or mentally, or his game doesn't transfer from the college level to the NFL level as a quarterback. Well, he showed that he can do that wrong. He proved them wrong. He gets into the NFL and it's like, well, he's not really great from the pocket, but then goes out his MVP season and throws 42 touchdowns from the pocket. Well, Lamar is just a running style quarterback. He's not really elite. He doesn't have, the intangibles of Mahomes. He doesn't have the smarts of a guy like Joe Burrow. He doesn't have the competitive, there's all these different things. And Lamar just says, prove you wrong, prove you wrong, prove you wrong, prove you wrong. And it doesn't surprise me that Lamar now is saying, well, now I want money unlike anybody else. Well, Lamar, you're not worth that because no one else gets that. I know, but I've proved you wrong in every other category. So why can't I prove you wrong in money? And it's just, for a guy that has been told no, or you can't, or it doesn't work that way, Lamar just keeps on pushing back and pushing back. And that's great when it comes to the football side of things. When it actually comes to your game and the fuel that propels you forward in your career to say, I'm going to show you wrong in my level of play, that is great. But when it comes to the off-field stuff, not having an agent, using your mom to represent you, doing these weird workout things, and the the website thing that he's got where you can find all your Lamar Jackson news on this poorly constructed 2008 website.
Oh, that's the problem. It was like one of the earliest stages of a web page ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this 2007 early YouTube looking. I mean, it's just weird. It's weird. And it's like Lamar, all of the things that make you a great quarterback on the field, the things that you're trying to transfer to the off the field, they just make you look goofy. Like, you need to be a businessman. You need to have an agent. Even though the agent gets a cut of what you get, they're designed to help you. That's what an agent does. They negotiate your salary. If Lamar had an agent, the deal would have been done 3 months ago. Easy. Because they would
Well,
have put in,
it probably would have been done 24 months ago when they first started these.
but that's my point. Like, I mean, Lamar they probably could have gotten Lamar at least $150 million guaranteed. And that is an insane amount of money.
But here's the problem. Lamar reportedly has turned down 175.
Right, but I'm saying it when it comes to, but I think that's why. I think because Lamar is so contrarian. I think it's because he's so out there and he's so different than everybody else. He's like Colin Cowherd calls him the Kawhi Leonard of the NFL, and that is very true. They're both these super aloof, not very vocal guys. I mean, on the court and on the field, they do their talking, but they're never really these outspoken characters. They don't have great sound bites. They just kind of get on the field, they ball, and then they go home. And you never really hear about them until something like this happens. With Kawhi, it's the load management, and Lamar, it's the money talk. But when they're on the field, you love them because they're all business on the field. And then they get off the field, off the court, and it's like, you're a shit show. What's going on? Why is it so different? Why are you business on the field, but when it comes to your circus off of it? Like, it should be the opposite. It should be that you're all business. Tom Brady's a perfect example. Tom Brady on the field was a complete, he was a wild man, screaming at coaches, screaming at players, throwing helmets, throwing tablets. And everyone was like, yeah, but when he gets off the field, he's the first guy to say, I need to be better. My teammates were great. This. Go Patriots. It was about the grind. It's about making sure that we win Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. People loved him. So you've got to be aware that what you're doing is not only against the grain, but you look like a complete buffoon. And you have to get this straightened out. First things first, go get an agent. Stop thinking you're smarter than everybody else. Just get the fucking agent. Get the agent. Get your deal, whether that's with the Ravens, whether that's with the 49ers, or whoever wants to pay you. Make sure you get that settled out and stop the nonsense. Just be a businessman. You're going to make so much money. In 4 years, none of this is going to even matter because you're going to get your money. And it doesn't matter who it comes from. Just go out there, play the game you love, try to win a Super Bowl, and shut up.
I mean, for mine, after 125 million, does it? Are we? I mean, what's the fucking semantics on 150 versus 175?
A yacht.
It's like it.
Oh,
I mean,
buy an extra yacht.
I mean, because it's like I get it. Like you can but you stop arguing about the second number. Like once you make it to three, you start arguing about 100 versus 200. That kind of seems, but it's like, yeah. But it's more like 100 to 500 is kind of the same. Like you do the same, you live the same lifestyle. Yeah. It changes after 500.
Let me ask you this. I'll make it a little bit more comparable to people like us who don't make nearly as much money as they do. What's the difference to you right now between $150,000 and $175,000? Nothing. It's literally nothing, because you would live the exact same style of life at 150K versus 175K. We're not talking 150 to 300 or 400,000.
Instead of getting, so we're in 2023. So instead of getting a 2023 car, you would get a 2024 car.
Boom. Oh, wow. Yeah. So crazy.
That's the difference. Instead of getting the iPhone 13, you get the iPhone 14. Like,
it is semantics. You're absolutely correct. It just needs to stop, because you look dumb. It's not even like you look you don't look smarter, or you don't look like this crafty businessman that's well, I'm going to hold out because I deserved this and I earned this. You look like a buffoon. You look like the Cleveland Browns. Like that, I
Well,
mean, that's who
and it would be different if it was a constant low ball, but like the fact that they offered him 175, I'm sorry. Like Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Until someone's better than Patrick Mahomes, then you can have more than his guaranteed money. But until someone like Patrick Mahomes guaranteed 135.
Yep.
Everyone else's guaranteed starting rate 130.
Yep.
Like that, I'm sorry, that's just how it works. You want to incentivize it up to 300 million? Sure, but your guaranteed money should base on how you are ranked in the league. And I'm sorry, it's not next person paid. We're a business.
Yep.
The NFL is a business. It's
Yep.
not a game. That is work. It is part of the process. You are at a different company. Like each team is a company. Each company runs its own way, and those companies compete against each other based off market share and value and attention and eyeballs and media. Stop with this nonsense of, oh, it's just about being a quarterback. No, it is truly about being a CEO of a business, and the way
Absolutely.
that Lamar is going about it, that's the reason why no one is trying to hire him as a CEO.
Eh,
He's just so unorganized, unprofessional. Like it's not that
well,
unprofessional, but
people
some of
are.
it comes off as he's trying to be the best in the room with things that he's not the best at. Go be the best quarterback. Stop trying to be the best agent.
Yep.
Go be the best quarterback. Stop trying to be the GM guru trying to, talk and negotiate with everyone. Like let it go. I get the trust thing, but I guarantee you there's 52 guys that would be more than willing on your own team to try to help you find a guy that's reputable.
Absolutely. And look, I saw an interesting statistic today. Lamar Jackson in his first 5 seasons is averaging 14 carries per game over the first 5. That is the most by any
Jeez.
quarterback in NFL history. So I'm sure there are teams that are looking at this. They're saying it's not even that what you're asking for is insane. It's what you're asking for is insane. And also, how long can you keep this up? Because there's going to be, you've already
Yeah,
missed.
there's a reason running backs are done by 27.
You've already missed 11 out of 33 games. Who's to say in the next 34 games you don't miss another 12 or 13? And then you're only playing what, 12 games a year for us? Like we can't do that. We can't
and out
bank on
and
that.
and out at the end of the year because we play 17 games a year now rather than 16, and that's just one extra time for you to get banged up. And
There's a
it's an element. It truly is. And this is the same credit to Justin Fields. Like I get it. Running is a part of their game, and that is an aspect that makes them different and unique. But hey, running primarily quarterback. Justin Fields primarily is looking to run. His second option is to run. The same way Lamar's, it's not exactly his second option, but it used to be his second option.
Mhm.
He now goes through a slight progression, but running is still a part of that progression. The reason Patrick Mahomes is so great about his mobility is because he's did the same that Aaron Rodgers always did. Aaron Rodgers is a very mobile guy, but
Yep.
it's about extending the play and
Not yeah.
escaping left to
Right.
right and backward and getting yourself to a position where you're giving your receivers, instead of 3 seconds to get down the field and get open, you're giving them 4.5 or 5. And now with the speed of the NFL and the way it is, you can't cover guys for 5 seconds.
No.
You can't. You
No.
can cover guys for 2 to 3, but there's a reason why any good defense operates in this fashion. You have a fantastic front four that get after the quarterback quick.
Yep.
And you have a great corner or two very solid corners and a good safety core to slow down receivers. It's not about being, locked on them like a stain on, a kid's dress after recess. Like the the point is it's about being there. It's about creating no window. The windows in the NFL are small, so you just need to be there long enough and get in a couple lanes to where it's my pass rushers got there. My pass rushers are able to get
Yeah.
there in under 4 seconds. Us as DBs, we can cover 3.5 seconds.
Right.
And so the quarterback doesn't have anywhere to look. We're going to
Correct.
take away the one, and then we're going to be really good on a 2 and 3. And by that time, he's either going to throw it away. But the difference in Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson's game is they look one's covered. And then there's at times Lamar does it way better than Justin does, where he looks 2 to 3, and that's not open, and then he takes off. Justin looks 1, half-ass looks at 2, and is gone. And
Yeah.
so there's also this angering issue, and it's a kind of known thing where the top receivers don't want to go play with running quarterbacks
Yep.
because, like you said, having 14 carries in a game, that should have been probably you can say some of those are design carries and like, hey, he's getting some of those, but
Yes.
then there's a lot of those that are just pure scrambles. And receivers want a chance. Receivers want the ball thrown their way. They want the opportunity to go get the football. And when you're running down the field and then you get to a point where, hey, it's only been 3.5 seconds and you know that there should be enough time and you get open and you turn back and you're looking when you're at a break on a route and you see the quarterback running down the field, that starts to get angering
Yeah.
because you're like, hey, I'm in the middle of my route and
Yes.
I'm about to get open at the point that you should be throwing me the football. And now look what's happening. And it throws off a semi of a dynamic, and not enough people understand that aspect of, yes, running quarterbacks are great and they apply this extra gear, but not being able to get the ball down the field in that manner where 14 of those times, I guarantee you they should have passed it and Lamar should have let the ball fly. And you think about, hey, if you pass the ball 14 more times in a game, how many more yards can we get versus you on the ground?
Well,
We
some of those are designed runs. We'll say
right,
half
but
of
I
those are
but
designed
but
runs.
but I'm saying take away the designed runs because you can go down to 3 designed runs in a game. So he throws the ball 11 more times in a game. How many more yards do you think Patrick Mahomes can get if you let him throw the ball 11 more
Oh,
times for free in a game?
sometimes it's 100. I mean, sometimes it's more than that. It just depends on who they're playing and who, are they down, the circumstantial things, but I would say at least 30 to 40 yards per game.
I
Easy.
mean, if you were to go on a long kind of process of a drive and ran 11 play, you can get down the field in 11 pass plays. Like
Absolutely.
you could run 11 plays and easily have a great 4 or 5 minute drive
Yep.
and move and chunk the ball down the field for 75 yards, 11 passes and a touchdown. Like
Correct.
that element, you add that to Justin Fields, you let him throw the ball 11 more times a game, and he gets up to 30 pass attempts in a game. Now, who knows? He might still only complete 15 of them, but it's an element of
Yeah.
start throwing the football. If you
Right.
want more pass yards, then throw the football. You want to throw more passing touchdowns, throw the football.
Well,
And throwing scores more efficiently than running does.
to your point, Justin Fields only averaged 19.8 attempts per game last year, which is the lowest, I believe, if
Ever.
I remember.
Has to be ever.
Well, I don't know if it's ever, but I think it's the lowest since like 1977.
Since they invented the forward pass,
It,
probably.
probably something around there. Actually, believe it or not, I'm going to pivot a little bit to some Bears news. Multiple reports, and I read this morning. This wasn't originally a part of the show. However, found this to be really, really cool. Multiple reports have claimed that left tackle Tevin Jenkins is going to be moved to left guard this year, which means the Bears are most likely at that 9 position eyeing a left tackle, and also reported they have finalized their interviews with both Paris Johnson out of Ohio State and Broderick Jones out of Georgia. So very quickly, Mighty Q, question, who do you think the Bears take? Because we got to talk a little bit of Bears here on Say It Like You See It. We're both Bears fans. Who do you think the Bears take at the 9 spot?
I forgot the guy's name, but the offensive lineman out of Northwestern.
Peter Skoronski.
Can't miss. Can't miss.
Now, see,
Period.
I think you're right. I think he's one of those guys that he's going to be a plug and play. He's going to be a Pro Bowler his first year. However, there are some worries that his length in terms of his
Nope.
wingspan, it's not translating to a left tackle position. It's more of a guard position, sort of like a Quentin Nelson, who they thought was going to be a great left tackle. Turns out, first 4 years, he's a Pro Bowl left guard, all first team, all pro left guard. I like Skoronski a lot. I think if you put him on the Bears, you could keep Tevin at the left tackle position, and you'd automatically have a really solid left tackle and a Pro Bowl guard. And then you move Nate Davis or Ben Davis or whoever that was. I think it's Nate Davis. Nate Davis over to the right guard position, and then you still have. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do we have who's the guy from Philly that we got last year? Is it Jason Peters? Is he still on the team? Or maybe it's Leatherwood now that we got from Vegas. One of our right guards, I think it's Leatherwood.
There have been a couple offseason moves where some different line. I couldn't tell if they were O line or D line. I've been
we
in
definitely got a
there's
guard
too many there
from
was too many
Tennessee.
there's too many names that were going all over the place that I was like, all right, I can't even keep up at this point. I was like, I'll catch up. I'll see the roster come after camp and everything, and I was like, that's when I'll look, because at this point it's a can't miss. And like for the Bears at this point, it's more of get a guy that's kind of for sure, because unless there is still I think Miles Murphy might still be there, but there's a chance that he's gone before. But like those are my two options. It's like I'm going to take a D end, because there's literally 6 of them in this draft that are going to play for a long time. So either take a D end, or I like Skoronski. The kid out of Ohio State, I'm a little bit hesitant on, because like I get hesitant about every player from Ohio State. It's the same reason, especially everyone talking about CJ Stroud, and at the end of the day, he's a quarterback out of Ohio State, and quarterbacks from Ohio State. We saw Braxton Miller, we saw Terrell Pryor. Justin Fields was cut from that same cloth, because
No.
here's the thing. They are the best athletes out on the field. No one denies that. That game does not translate into the NFL due to the way that the rules are, the way the clock works. Because in college, you can go down the field and you can score running in like 40 seconds. You can have a couple big plays as runs because the clock stops for the reset of the chains, and you're in a NASCAR type offense and you're just out athleting other teams, which Ohio State does all the time playing in the Big Ten. Like some of those bottom teams are really, really bad, and their talent difference between the middle and the top is still very large.
Yep.
So Ohio State has this proclivity of great athletes everywhere, also at the quarterback position. So they spread the ball out. They're moving down the field, up and down, super fast, all about speed. And the rules of college football allow for that. So we see this happen a lot, where, and I think the Ravens kind of do this too. And that's the reason that a lot of people had a real knock on Lamar for a handful of years with he can't play from behind. It's because when you run the football the way that they do, where it's scrambling and just kind of getting down and getting out of bounds, just because they go out of bounds on a scramble, unless it's underneath the 5-minute, the clock doesn't stop.
Right.
So you get some of these drives where, they run a couple times, the clock never stops. And next thing you know, you look up and it's like, oh, well, that was, we got a field goal, but we took 7 minutes off the clock. And if the other team goes and takes 7 minutes off the clock, it's like, well, there's a full quarter. And if they scored a touchdown, it's like, great, we're already down points, and they score too slow. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why those basically hyper athletic quarterbacks actually don't work in the NFL. No one really talks about the time difference between what the college rules are and what the NFL rules are, because I really think that's probably the only reason those guys don't work, because they make roughly the same amount of plays. Yes, they throw the ball normally not there's like slightly less accurate for the most part because, they're just not a hyper focused, like hyper trained guy. It's like, you know, uh, a starting pitcher versus a relief pitcher. A
Yeah.
relief pitcher better come in and be super accurate. Starting pitcher, hey, he's going to walk some people.
Yeah.
That's now kind of the issue is I think they just take up too much time, and that's part of the issue. It leads to we run the ball too much and the teams run the ball too much. You score slow. If you don't score a touchdown, then it feels almost like a wasted because if you don't have an equally level defense on the other side, it can get pretty bad pretty quick.
Yeah. It's look, I think the one thing that we both agree on, if we're going to go forward with Justin Fields this season, we cannot have another year like last year where the Bears
7
are,
straight losses back-to-back years.
well, it's not even that.
What?
It's not even that. It's
What?
last year everyone was focused on this. Oh my God, the most rushing yards in Bears franchise history, second most rushing yards
That's what
by a
happens when you have
franchise.
3 running backs.
Correct. And that's why I tell everyone that says, "Oh, the Bears' offensive line wasn't even that bad last year." Well, yeah, because on 65% of the plays, no one's getting to the quarterback because you're handing the football off. So yes, of course, on the running plays, our offensive line was rated like number 3 in the league. But if you looked at our passing offensive line, it was ranked like 29. It was terrible. So, of course, when you mash those numbers both together, you come out to, oh, look, actually, they were probably right in the middle of they're number 14, 15, 16. They're right in the middle. It's not that bad. Well, duh. Every offensive line looks good when you're running the ball 25 times a game or 30 times a game. But, so I think the Bears need to eye offensive line, and I think you're right. They need to cut Justin Fields. Justin Fields, by the way, averaged 10.7 carries per game last year.
Terrible.
Just an insane number. That needs to get down to about half. That needs to be about 5, maybe 6 tops. If you're still going to go with hey, we think Justin's an elite runner of the football. We want to see him do some dynamic things that he did last year by running the football. 5, 6 max. I would like to see Justin's rushing yards per game be somewhere in the 40 to 50 cap. Like and even a little bit further below. I'd like to see it more like 30 to 50 per game. I don't care if Justin runs for 700 yards next year. I want to see that yards per game go from 190 to 250. So it's just one of those.
It's pretty simple. If the Bears would run a lot of RPO stuff, you can get away with Justin kind of running because the objective is the ball comes out quick. The point of an RPO, it's either hand it off or you're throwing the ball right behind the D end. The ball should be out of his hand immediately. So, hey, let's work some RPO. You're going to hand the ball off a handful. Like if it's going to work in threes. You're probably going to hand it off 30% of the time. You're probably going to pull it 30% of the time. You're probably just going to let it rip 30% of the time.
Yep.
So on those 30% that you pull it, work that into a progression, and the Bears can have a guy trailing on the back end. That I think that a lot of teams actually don't do this enough. So this is kind of like there's a relative like over and across route where a backside receiver, so running in an RPO, so he turns to his right and the running back's coming across his face and he's gonna pull it because the DN's coming and crashing there. If that DN crashes and he loops around and starts on that run, if you have a guy from the left side of the formation coming on a drag all the way across the field and just basically gaining ground, there's going to be it depends on if they're in cover 2 or cover 3 or 1 or 0, but like it definitely depends on the coverage. Right. But if it's cover 2, there's going to be 2 openings. There's going to be an opening when he gets to the middle of the field, which is about the time that you would get on a rollout. So there's that pass because then you're also out of the throwing lane of the middle linebacker that's dropping into the hole and you're underneath the safety. Or if you roll out far enough and get it going far enough, then he hits the further hole that's on the outside of the safety going to the sideline. And then you get this nice, easy throw where it's a pitch and catch that should be either underneath the safety or over the top of the safety, depending on what happens and where he rolls. But it still ends up being safe throws because they're seen from the line of scrimmage. They're seen before the snap. And at the end of the day, he can still tuck it and run it and get 3, 4, 5, 10 yards, slide, or get out of bounds.
Yeah.
It's a way of moving the football, and the Bears just don't do it very well, and it's kind of sad. But that's
Well, it's an
a
interesting
further
analysis.
breakdown another day, because there's
right. It is an interesting
game's
analysis.
simple.
Right. That's about all the time we've got for today. Interesting stuff. We are officially, I believe, we are 16 days away, 2.5 weeks away from the NFL draft. It's going to be very interesting to see which teams. By the way, some other breaking news: 6 teams have reportedly called the Cardinals about trading up for that 3rd overall pick. We could see the Commanders slide up. We could see the Falcons slide up. There are a lot of teams that are in that 5 to 12 range that you could absolutely see moving up to that 3rd slot to take their quarterback of the future. Remember to follow us where you would like to follow us. We are on YouTube. We're on Instagram at Say It Like You See It Pod. We're on TikTok. Quinn just put something up real funny about Trey Lance's hairline and a little Patty Mahomes, not so little anymore.
Look, there's a little tip for both of them. It's a thing called a headband.
A headband. There you go.
Trey could have hidden his whole hairline with this bad boy right here. Just hit it the whole way.
It was bad. But like I said, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you again either Thursday or Friday. Quinn and I might be trying out some new scheduling stuff. It might be a Thursday show, it might be a Friday show. Fridays are generally kind of busy for me. But anyway, thank you for joining us from the heart of Packer Country in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. I am Trace, the Moose Moustakis, alongside Quinn, the Mighty Q Redmond from Fargo, North Dakota. We will see you guys very soon.